This happened to me back in the 80s, where I lived in a small town in the middle of Oklahoma. I was about 9 years old, and my mom took me shopping to our local superstore as I was off school for whatever reason. We were browsing one of the aisles when I noticed a man at the end of the aisle we were standing in who kept looking at me. I didn't really think much of it. As I mentioned, I was only 9 at the time. I continued to shop with my mom when I saw a selection of toys on the ends of one of the aisles. I asked my mom if I could go look at the toys, and she said yes, but told me to stay close. I saw this stuffed bear I really wanted. I was looking at it and trying to find a price so I could ask my mom. The man I saw earlier came up to me and offered to buy it for me. "Hey, if you come with me, I can buy it for you if you like." My mom always told me not to talk to strangers, so when he tried to speak to me, I turned to walk away, dropping the bear. As I did, the man grabbed my arm and pulled me back, saying something about me being rude. I don't remember exactly. I pulled my arm away, said I was sorry, and ran off to find my mom. My mom was just in the next aisle where I'd left her. I told her what had happened, and she then took me by the arm, started dragging me across the store, and told me to point the man out. My mom was the kind of woman who would claw out a man's eyes just for looking at me. We walked up and down the store, but we couldn't find the man anywhere. My mom even spoke to the manager, but I don't know what came from that. We finished our shopping and went out to the car. My mom was packing the car while I stood next to her. A car that was driving past us stopped, and I just remember being pulled from behind. I screamed, and my mom turned around with a look of terror on her face. The door closed, and the car set off driving before my mom could get to me. I was kicking and screaming, and the man threatened to hurt me if I didn't calm down. I was crying for my mom and begging them to let me go. It was a woman driving. She drove for a while and then switched with the man, and she got in the back with me. I was scared and just wanted my mom. I don't really remember the scene of events after that, but probably after we'd been driving for about an hour, I heard a siren go off somewhere close to us. I tried to look around, and the woman pushed my head down to the seat as the siren got closer. I was hoping it was for me. I could feel us slowing down as the man pulled over to the side of the road. I just remember hearing lots of shouting and screaming from the police, telling my abductors to get out of the car with their hands up. The man and the woman got out of the car. I never asked my mom what happened and how they found me, but I seem to recall her saying that someone had witnessed what happened and got the license plate number. Because of this, it was handed to the police, who were able to locate and find me. I try not to think about it too much, but things weren't like they are today, and if that person hadn't got that license plate, who knows where I would have ended up. A few years back when I was in college, I met a guy I'll name Isaac, who was in the same English class as me. Isaac and I didn't become friends until late into the semester, when we would hang out outside of college. One night after class, we were talking, and I was telling him how I was worried about finding a job when I graduate and paying off my student loan. Isaac was sympathetic, but told me that his loan was already paid off, and he could help me out if I was interested. He told me that he had some friends that could line me up with a job that would clear my entire student loan debt. But before he introduced me, I had to agree to it with no questions asked. I knew it was likely to be something illegal, which should have been my first red flag, and that's where the conversation should have ended. However, I said yes, and a few days later went to meet these friends at a location that was given to me only 30 minutes before pickup. I was told to leave my phone so my journey could not be traced. When I arrived, I saw 2 men with balaclavas on. One of the men told me to open the trunk and stay in the car. He walked to the back of my car and put something in the trunk, then closed it. The other man handed me an envelope and told me not to open it until I delivered the drop. On top of the envelope, there was an address with directions. I was nervous, and I was scared of getting caught, but also thought if anything did happen, I could just play ignorant to whatever was in the trunk. I wasn't even sure how much money I was getting paid. I was just told it was enough to pay off all my loans. 2 hours into the journey, I was on a quiet road when I saw a vehicle approaching me in my rearview mirror. As it got closer, high beam headlights flooded my windscreen. I can now see it was a van tailing me, so I put my foot down to try and get away. I was still an hour away from the drop, so I was thinking that whoever this was probably wasn't who I was supposed to be meeting. The van began to flash its lights and signaled to pull over. I pulled over, thinking maybe something was wrong with my car, or maybe this is how the transactions are made. As I stopped, the van pulled in front of me, as if to block me from driving away, and two men got out. I stood out of my car and asked them what the issue was, but they didn't respond. Instead, one of the men grabbed me and wrestled me to the ground. I wasn't quite giving up on fighting when the other man came and put a needle in my arm, injecting me with something. I continued to wrestle, but this guy just lay on top of me until I started to feel queasy and lightheaded. I don't know what they injected me with, but I began to lose all strength, and the two men picked me up and put me in the van. I could hear them talking, and then it was lights out. I awoke as they were dragging me to a hole which they tossed me in. Then they started shoveling dirt on top of me. Quietly panicking and thinking this was going to be the end of my life, I heard the two men start running across the gravel, and then I heard them drive away. As I sat up, I saw two headlights approaching. It was dark, and I was still half in a hole, but whoever decided to take that rural road that night will never know how they saved my life. The car didn't stop, but I was able to get to safety. I couldn't call the cops because I didn't know what I was carrying, and it was likely to be highly illegal. I never saw Isaac again, and to this day, I have no idea why these men threw me in their van and drove me somewhere to bury me. I was in my junior year of college and had just turned the magical age of 21, so naturally I was partying hard almost every weekend. This particular Saturday night, my friends and I had been having some drinks at a new bar, and it was located a while away from our dorms. Normally we'd visit the same few places, which were all a walkable distance from campus, so we didn't have to worry about designated drivers or taxi fees. But this particular occasion was right after a really rough exam week for those of us majoring in physics, so we figured we deserved a treat. By the time 10 p.m. rolled around, I had drunk too much, and it was time for me to make my way home. At that point, it was still early, so I didn't really expect my friends to leave with me. Plus, if they knew I was trying to leave, they would try to convince me to stay and drink more. So instead of interrupting them, I just took myself outside and ordered a cab. After a few minutes, a car pulls up to the curb, and I instinctively get in. I vaguely remember the driver to be this 30-something and wearing a baseball cap. Since I've already put the address in the app, I didn't really say anything other than hello. Literally not even 2 minutes after the car starts moving, I begin to feel like I'm going to be sick. So I mutter something like, "Hey, do you mind if I lay down? I feel sick." And the driver just says, "Sure." I lay down, in a position that ensures that I can't see all the buildings and houses we're rushing past out the window. 10 minutes into the ride, my phone buzzes, but I'm so dizzy and drunk that I just ignore it at first. 30 seconds later, another buzz. Ignored. 10 seconds after that, a third buzz. And this time I decide to check out what's so damn important, because I figure one of my friends can't find me at the bar and is trying to find out where I am. Nope. Instead, it's a notification from the taxi app. "Your cab has arrived." I'm confused, but I touch the notification, figuring it just arrived late, and it takes me to the app. The screen loads the messages, sent 1 minute ago. "Your cab is waiting. White Honda Civic." I panic immediately. I don't know what car I got into, but I knew it wasn't white. I sit up and look up from my phone to the person driving the car to realize I was not in a white Honda Civic and that this was not my cab. The driver looks at me, chuckles and says, "Took you long enough." I look out the window and I don't recognize where I am. I try the back doors and the child locks are on. The driver looks at me in the rearview mirror and says, "Yo, relax, we'll be arriving at our destination soon." I needed to think fast, and in my drunken haste, I threw myself forward between the front seats and grabbed the steering wheel, pulling it as hard as I could to one side until we crashed. I woke up in the hospital the next morning, sore and hurt, but alive. The good news is, I didn't kill anyone with the crash, not even my would-be kidnapper. The bad news? I only know I couldn't have killed him because I was the only person found in the wreckage.